Hello, my name is Caiting. For this lesson, Brenna and me are going to talk about passive voice. As you may have been familiar with some knowledge of passive voice, we are going to move further to using passive voice in different forms today. Before we move on, let's take a quick flashback of what you have been learned about passive voice before. So, how do we use passive voice? Let's look at the following picture. Let's say Tom ate Jerry yesterday. Can you rewrite this simple sentence into passive voice? Let me give you some hints. You could think about what is the subject of this sentence and also about the object. Take a pause and write down your answer on your own paper. Okay, so looking at the sentence structure. Tom is the subject of this sentence. Ate is a verb in past tense. And Jerry is the object of the sentence. When we rewrite the sentence into passive voice, we always change the object into subject and then the subject into object, adding a word by. So the answer for this sentence will become Jerry was eaten in regular form by who? Tom. Yesterday. Can you see how the sentence structure was changed? And is it commonly used in English? Understanding the passive voice is important because it is used often in both formal and informal ways in English. You could change the focus of the sentence when you think the object is the most important part of the sentence. So, in this example, we change the focus on Tom to Jerry. So we are in frames Jerry was eaten. Sometimes you may use the passive voice when you don't know who or what did the action. For example, Jerry was eaten yesterday. Here are the learning outcomes. Let's move on to the passive voice sentence in present simple and past simple tense. Firstly, look at the difference between using an active verb and a passive verb in the sentence. In the first sentence, a homeless man and he are the subject. Bought and won are the active verbs. A lottery ticket and the lottery are the objects of the sentence. Looking at the example of when we use in a passive verb, we say what happens to the subject. So what happened to the 10,000 students are that they are enrolled in this university. For the next grammar point, sometimes we may just say, I was born in 1998. So we don't have an object for the sentence, but it still makes sense. And when you want to say who does or what caused the action, we add by before the object. Let me make a conclusion for this part. Looking at this example, we could observe the structure of the passive voice sentence in present simple and past simple tense. It is subject plus be verb, adding past participle, and finally object in the sentence. However, sometimes we don't have an object in our sentence. Here is a little practice for you. Take a pause, give it a go, and then I will show you the answer. Here are the answers for your practice. In the following section, Brenna will focus more on the different tenses of the passive voice.
Hello, my name is Brenna, and in this section of the lesson, we are going to look at different tenses and what effect they have on both active and passive sentences. To achieve this, we will look at both the definitions and examples of each tense, and then finish up with a small reflective task that will ask you to rewrite various active voice sentences into passive voice sentences. Do not worry though, this is not a test and we will discuss the answers together towards the end of the lesson. As you can see, we're looking at the differences between active and passive sentences. So firstly, what are some of the differences between active and passive sentences, and how can we identify which is which? Looking at the table on slide 4, we can see that when a sentence is in the active voice, the subject of the sentence is the one doing the action expressed by the verb. In the passive voice, the subject is the person or thing acted on or affected by the verb's action. This would have been explained before your quiz, but it's always good to revisit prior knowledge before learning something new. Let's have a look. Tony changed the flat tire. That's in the active voice. Now, if we switch it to the passive voice, the sentence is going to become, the flat tire was changed by Tony. I've asked a few questions that will hopefully help to get you thinking about these major differences. In fact, the focus of a sentence always changes when switching from an active to a passive voice, and most would agree the active sentence is far clearer than the passive as it gets straight to the point of names, times, and dates. Now, who might use the passive voice and why? Well, anyone can use a passive voice, but usually someone who wants to express that the subject is the person or thing acted on or affected by the action of the verb. Now we're moving on to passive tenses. Passive tenses, what are they and why do we use them? Well, we use the passive voice because we want to discuss something where who or what causes the action is unknown or just not important. The tenses we will learn today help us express our thoughts and ideas within the right time frame, particularly in the past. It is important and easy to remember. Only the form of be changes to make the tense. The past participle stays the same. Here are examples of the passive in its most common tenses. Present simple. An example, pasta is made from potatoes, sauce, and salt. The structure of form of present simple is are plus past participle. Next we have the present continuous. The example, the house is being painted this week. Are being plus past participle. Here is where your new knowledge can be practiced. In this activity, you will rewrite active voice sentences into the passive voice by using the forms we discussed in the previous slide. I'll give you a couple of minutes to try that out and then we can discuss the answers. So, looking at question 1 and the answer provided below, you can see that the had been plus past participle form is used, which makes the sentence written in the past perfect tense. The second question and answer takes the same form. The third question is rewritten in the past simple tense. Question 4 follows the same form, and question 5 is written in the present simple tense.